Hello and welcome back to the channel. While browsing the chess.com variants, I came across this. What is that, you may ask? That is a dragon bishop, and it moves just like a regular bishop, but also like a knight. A knight that can't jump over pieces, so here it can move to the red square, and here it cannot. In this video, I'm determined to conquer this dragon and defeat at least one player. I actually played 3 games before this, but my mic wasn't turned on for any of those, so I guess you could say I've had some dragon training. Let's get into game number 1. Alright, this is going to be a learn as we go kind of thing, so I don't have any strategies going into this. You'll also notice that the pieces are randomly set up, which is another weird thing about this variant. It's kind of like chess 960. I'm going to go ahead and play c6 here, and pretend that I'm playing the Caro-Kann, even though it's definitely not the Caro-Kann, because all the pieces are in the wrong spot. We get bishop to e2, or well, dragon to e2, and I'll go ahead and play d6 here. I'm looking to get my knight out to d7, and I really don't have a plan besides that. Maybe e6, and then the other knight to e7. I mean, it looks concrete. Okay, we get, not bishop, dragon to c4. And I'll go ahead and play e6 here. I'm looking for knight to d7, knight to e7. And that is just a free dragon, I think. I'm not sure how much a dragon is actually worth. It must be worth more than a bishop because it has more choices, more squares that it can move to. But I'm not sure how much more. Maybe 4 or 5 points. I'll go ahead and take, though. Free dragon for me. I guess you could say I've conquered that dragon. And we're met with e5. I am in no rush here, so I'm going to go back to c8. I mean, play it nice and safe. I feel bad for this opponent because you see the question mark next to their name, which tells me that this is probably their first game ever of dragon chess. Yeah, and then we get the resignation right after. All right. So technically I did achieve my goal of beating at least one player, but I'd like to defeat somebody who is not a first timer at this game because that just feels like a little unfair. It says that there's 1,300 players online, and I wonder of those players how many are actually rated like 2,000 or something like that. Anyways, let's go ahead and jump into game number 2. All right, we're back with game number 2, and unfortunately we get another question mark. But I guess it's all good practice. We'll play reverse Caro-Kann. I'll just pretend that I'm actually playing something I'm familiar with, and that will give me a false sense of confidence. Play c3, which is all you need sometimes. You just need to fake it till you make it. I'm not sure if my opponent is even going to play here. But if he does, okay, and he did, he played e5. I think my plan here is to play like kind of the same thing. d3, e3, knights towards the center, and maybe keep an eye out for where I can develop a dragon. So I'll play e3 first, because I'd like to keep this dragon and this one basically available to play. Okay, dragon to g5, I'll play h4 right away and hit it. Because there's nowhere it can move to besides back, right? So we get dragon to e6, sure. Let's play d4 here, why not? We've got 2 dragons on light squares, so we might as well play our pawns on the dark squares. I'm tempted to take back with the c pawn. I'd normally take back with the e pawn, but the development situation is so weird that I'd rather keep this pawn in front of my king. Okay, that was a pre-move, which tells me he might actually be familiar with this game because I was very confident. We got knight to d6. And let's see, there's so many options here. It's really quite difficult to calculate. We'll meet knight to d6 with knight to b3. Not knight to d3 because I want to keep my options available for this dragon. Okay, we get f5. I'll play knight to d2. Again, we're moving on squares that don't impede the development of my dragons, so eventually I can decide where I want them to go and have plenty of options. Okay, a5. Sure. Let's play knight to c5. I imagine that my knight must be worth less than whatever the dragon is worth, if the dragon can move like a knight and a bishop, although there's a slight handicap on the knight movement, right? For example, here, his dragon can't actually capture my knight, because there would be a blockade. There's a knight in the way. If that knight weren't there, then the dragon could capture back and move like a knight. So in that sense, knights are still unique in their jumping ability. Anyways, we get dragon to d5. I'm not really sure what I play here. Maybe dragon to f3? Offer a fair dragon trade? I guess there's nothing objectively bad about that. Okay, we do get a dragon trade. Cool, we'll take back. That I'm comfortable with, because I'm sure that a dragon must be worth the same as another dragon. If it's not, then I'm blown away. Okay, knight to e4 seems to be double attacked. I think I can just win that outright, and we get a free pawn on the way. Not to mention we get to centralize our dragon, which gives it a lot more options. And we're looking out at b7 at the moment. Okay, bishop to a, well, dragon to a7, I guess. Do I take here and allow him to win this tempo? I move back, rook takes b2, and then I'm kind of on defense at that point. Or do I develop my queen? And I think the answer is pretty self-evident. I'm going to play my queen to h2, hit c7, give myself the option of castling. Whoa, long castle here cannot possibly be the right move. I mean, he's got a semi-open file looking right at his king. My dragon, I mean, come on, its literal name is a dragon, and my queen are both looking that way. The knight is not far off from centralizing, and I can castle short with lots of protection, so I can't imagine that long castle there was particularly optimal, but we'll castle short. We get dragon to b5, and I'll go ahead and bring my rook to the semi-open file, coordinate with the queen, and we get checkmate. Nice. All right, we've won 2 games now, but we still haven't defeated an opponent that doesn't have a question mark. That's to say we haven't defeated somebody who isn't a newbie yet. So let's see if we can find somebody this time who is not brand new to the game. All right, we get somebody else who's new to the game. I feel kind of bad again, but again, I can use all the practice I get so that when I get somebody a little more serious, I'll know what to do. Okay, this time I'm going to play e3. I don't move Freddy the f-pawn in regular chess, and I don't really see a reason to move him now. This dragon I'll develop through h2 instead. So it's going to be a little bit of a weird setup, but I think I'm going to go for like d3. The knight's in front of my king. This bishop will come here. Obviously, that'll have to happen before my knights, and then like dragon to h2. So let's go d3, get our pawns in the right spots. This looks like it's going to be a little bit more of a closed position. I just realized I think I may have blundered queen to b4 there with check and then picking up this pawn, but he didn't see it, so it didn't happen. We got knight to d6 instead, which is fair, developing, and I'll do the same. And I'm not really familiar with any dragon tactics or anything like that, so I assume pins and forks and whatnot apply as usual, but I have yet to see an exception where something like a pin, a fork, a discovered attack has any particular nuance because of the involvement of this special piece. We'll play knight to b3 here. Since I'm seeing a general trend that seems to suggest long castle, okay. We get dragon back to c8, sure. My dragon and my queen here are a little bit at odds. I kind of want to play dragon to e2, it feels natural, but then it's at odds where the queen wants to move to. So we'll go dragon to f3 instead, queen to e2, and then based on how much development he has or has not accomplished, we'll decide where we actually want to castle. I'm assuming he wants to castle long. I mean, that was a lot of development to not castle long. But we're met with h5 instead. I could castle short here, and then just fend for myself. Or I can castle long and get away from all of his pieces, which I think makes more sense. I'll castle long here, and basically invite him to do the same. Okay, we get dragon to h7. He's basically copied my setup. It's just too great of a setup, you know? Let's see, do I run the king into the corner and then proceed? It's not normally a real chess strategy, so I assume it's not one here either. We'll play a3 to stop potential ideas of knight to b4. We get dragon to g5, which does offer a dragon trade. And sure, why not? Just to flex that I know how it works. Okay, his dragon recaptures. We're only left, well, I say I'm only left with a dark square dragon, but realistically dragons can change squares. Not here right now. Again, it's blocked, so it can't actually move there, but they do have the capacity to change squares. I'm going to play king to b1 now. Get my king off the diagonal that this dragon is looking down, and then play e4. I mean, if he keeps his king in the center, I'm just going to rupture the center. Okay, he does castle long, which makes sense. I'm going to play... Oh, Jesus. I was going to play dragon to e5 to reroute my bishop, but that's free. Okay, hold on. Relax. Let's see. Let's play knight to f3. Harass his dragon a little bit first, and then maybe we can bring the knight to d4. Whoa, that trade cannot be right. I'm going to take back, but I imagine a dragon has to be worth more than a regular knight. Considering the dragon can move like a bishop and a sort of handicapped knight that can't jump. So I assume that we have some kind of material advantage now. We have a dragon for a knight, and I feel like that's almost being like... That's almost like being up the exchange in a regular game. Right, because the dragon just has straight up more choices than the knight does, so I imagine there's some sort of upside to that. Let's play... I'm going to play queen back to e2. There's not a real particular purpose to that move, other than I don't want knight to e5 to hit my queen with tempo, but that's not really a threat, to be honest. It's really just bringing my queen back until I see what he's trying to do. Okay, knight to f5, cool. e4 is really tempting here, hits the knight. If knight to e5, we get a knight trade, and then I can play queen to e3, hit his knight. If e5 trying to stabilize, there's c3, which kicks him out. And that should be pretty good. I'll play e4 here. I still have this dragon looking down this diagonal, but it's only functioning as a bishop at the moment, which is what I want it to do, to be fair. I'll take back with the pawn because I'm more than happy to get a trade here that leaves me with full control of this open file. We get knight to h4, knight on the side of the board, already kind of sketchy. Is there any way I can take advantage of that? I'm just going to play f3 for right now. f3 defends the pawn, kind of makes this knight question its life decisions, and we've won this open file, which is great. We are in control of the open file. There's ideas of queen to c4, maybe hitting e6, knight to c5, supported by the queen, follows up on that. We get f5, trying to break down the center. I'm just going to play queen to c4. Let's see what he does about this e6 pawn. I'm down to 6 minutes, which is really not a huge concern, but I do have to keep that in mind that while I'm explaining my moves, it's slower to explain my moves than just to regularly play. So if I explain my moves, I have to watch the time. Okay, he does capture, which seems to invite capturing with check here. So I don't mind if I do. We'll take with check, and then we can always recapture after. Okay, we get king to b8. Can't play knight to c5, threatening this because the queen just captures it right away. So I'll take... Oh, I've just realized if I take, he takes this pawn. It's really not the end of the world, but I can see where his counterplay would come. Let's play rook to d7. Let's ignore whatever's going on over here and focus on the bright side of things. We have an attack going on, so let's take advantage of it. We're hitting this pawn. We can always take with check, but even more interesting really is to take with the rook. And then anywhere this rook moves, it's discovered check right after. Okay, I don't want to let him queen, so I will take here first. Okay, the knight takes back, which hits our dragon. So we'll take with the dragon with check. I love that it has wings. It literally feels like it's flying across the board every time I pick it up. It's so good. All right, we get king to a8. What's our move here? Let's go dragon to d6 and hit the queen. Unleash the rook. Maybe we can play knight to c5. I have to be kind of concise with this attack. I can't be too slow because my king is completely exposed back here. Which, of course, there's no way for him to take advantage of that right now. But there's not a lot of moves to waste either. Queen to e8 is pressing. It offers a queen trade against my hanging queen. Which I think I can just accept. Yeah, let's accept. And then we can take this pawn as well. And as long as I don't hang any pieces here, I should be in business for a pretty smooth win. Even if he comes in with check, I move my king out of the way. There's threats of back rank mate. If the knight defends, I take with the rook. My dragon comes in with the assist. It's checkmate. So pretty optimistic. Things are looking up here. It's kind of a slow way to play this. Okay, he does play a6, so creates that escape route. And let's play rook to h7. Just come to the side and hunt down this pawn. Maybe we can look to promote in the really, really long term. Knight to d4, we'll go ahead and trade because honestly, why not? And c3 here boots the knight. I'm very curious to see where he places this knight because if it comes down to c2, I'm going to be very amused. Okay, knight to b5, which does hit our dragon, so we have to move that. But after dragon to c5, I don't really see where this knight can move to anymore, besides back to a7, which is compromised because there's check, knight back, takes, and then it's mate. So I think this knight is just trapped. I'm going to come take this pawn, try to promote, and call it a day, all in a day's work. Okay, king to b8. I just realized if this knight is trapped, why don't I just attack the knight, a4? The knight goes back here. There's still check. The king moves out. I take the knight. So yeah, let's do that. a4. I think we just won the knight. It has nowhere to go. The dragon is too powerful. Although, to be fair, it's acting like a bishop at the moment. But, you know, I give myself credit wherever I can. If knight to c7, the dragon moves to d6, pins the knight. Okay, we get rook to e5. Oh, that's really good, actually. Because this doesn't work while the knight's there. And if I take, I just lose the dragon. Darn it, gave myself too much credit, where credit was not due. Okay, let's play dragon to b6. Wait, Can I just... Oh, yeah, I forgot. I forgot that this is not a bishop. It's a dragon, for crying out loud. We have dragon to d7 here. Hits the king, hits the rook, and is actually a fork. That's so good. That's so good. Oh, he offered a draw. Oh, my friend, this is not a draw. This is not a draw. I am the dragon whisperer. This is not a draw. All right, we did get our third win. All right, let's play one more game and see if we can get somebody who is not brand new to this. Although, to be fair, this guy played actually pretty darn well up until that last tactic. So let's get one more game. Wow, okay. I know that for you guys that's instant, but that waiting period was so long, but it was well worth it. We got a basically 1,700 across from us now. A lot of opportunity for rating points, but also a lot of opportunities to get destroyed. Okay, he seizes the center right away. Right away, I feel like you can tell this is a more experienced player, very confident in taking over the center. Let's play e6 here. I have a dragon on a dark square, so I'd like him to come out. And then maybe I can play d5, place this dragon on d6, something along those lines. Also, this is a pawn structure that I'm very familiar with. There's no way we're entering an advanced variation of the Caro-Kann. That's so funny. I guess this would be more like a French, where I'm just behind a tempo. Anyways, let's go ahead and play c5 here regardless. Maybe I can develop this dragon to b6, put a little more pressure on the center, but I'm playing knight to c6 first and keep this as a sort of back pocket weapon. Okay, we get knight to e3, and boom, dragon to b6, putting a lot of pressure on d4 by these three pieces, and if takes, I can develop another dragon, and they're all lined up on this diagonal, which is quite promising, I believe. Not to mention that if he takes on c5, he destabilizes this pawn, which has two attackers and only one defender. Okay, queen to d3. If I take, he takes. Dragon to b4 check is really interesting. Let's play that, just for the sake of opening up the position a little bit and giving this guy somewhere to go. We'll play check. And I'm cool with trading dragons if that's necessary. I can play knight to e7 and then castle right after. Although I guess knight to g5, queen threatening mate, a little bit scary. But maybe knight to g6, h4, h6. Maybe not as concrete as I imagined. Anyways, we get dragon to d2. We'll go ahead and trade dragons, because why not? And for sure, this knight needs to be developed, so knight to e7. Whether or not I castle right now is quite questionable, but... Oh, he took with the knight. Oh, I didn't even realize that that happened until after I played knight to e7. I thought he was going to take with the queen and keep the knight on f3 to defend d4. But he took with the knight, and I just played knight to e7, concerned about developing my pieces. Silly me. Anyways, he plays knight to b3 to reinforce this d4 pawn. Now it's up to me to prove that I didn't just blow that, although I believe I did. I guess since this knight isn't here anymore, that's not a concern, but I'm kind of afraid of what this dragon can do by itself. So, let's delay castling for just a moment. Let's play knight to g6 instead. This dragon can only move to e2 at the moment. So if the dragon moves to e2, I can play knight to f4, pick up a dragon for my knight, and I'm quite happy with that. Okay, g3 anticipates that if bishop to e2, knight to f4, and protects that square. Very nice. Let's see. Queen has to go somewhere. Let's play queen to d8. I think the rook makes sense on c8. Controlling the open file, maybe knight to b4, they can work together on c2 at some point. And the queen makes more sense on the king side. I'm going to wait for him to castle before I castle, okay? Good to castle. And we've reached a decently normal position. I don't think my dragon is optimally placed. I don't believe his is either, to be fair. Play queen to e7, connect the rooks. And keep a sharp eye out here for any opportunities. I'm almost tempted to come for a kingside attack. And just reroute my dragon completely. I feel like normally that's the way to go about this, is to play for critical positions. Play actively looking for critical positions. All right, we get queen to d2. And I'm just going to play h6 here for right now. Create an escape square for my king, in case things get a little bit tricky on this open file, and pieces start flying down into the back rank. I know that's very, very long-term thinking, considering the position that we're actually in at the moment, but I think it's decently sound reasoning. Okay, we get f4. Uber aggressive, looking for f5. If takes, there's even knight takes on d5. Not the most comfortable position I've been in, and probably a result of playing this position much more slowly than what it deserved. Let's see. What about f5 here? I know it seems a little bit extreme. En passant, I take with the queen f5. I move the knight to e7 if takes, queen takes. It's a little bit sketchy, but I think it's worth a shot. I mean, for crying out loud, I have a dragon on the board and I'm not doing anything with it. I need to open up the position here a little bit. It'd be great if I could open up this long diagonal. But for that, I need something like an e5 push, or to weaken e5 sufficiently to target this pawn. Not to mention, it's quite critical. If he doesn't take now, he can never take again. Okay, he does take. Let's continue with our plan. Maybe we should take with the rook, though. If we take with the rook f5, I take, he takes, is less questionable. But if I take with the queen f5, takes. Actually, I wouldn't take. I would play knight to e7. Pawn takes, queen takes. Dragon to g4, queen to e4. I lose the rook. I take it back. Am I willing to lose a rook for a dragon? Yes, let's do it. YOLO, let's do it. I want to keep things interesting, and I need some sort of counterplay here. I'm not going to play this like a hermit for the rest of the game, so I'm not scared of you, Mr. 1700. Even though I'm rated 1560 in this variant. All right, we get knight to g4. Obviously we can't take because it's defended by knight, so how on earth do I justify all these ridiculous moves I've made? Every chess player's critical question. I'm down to 5 minutes as well. Less jokes and more concrete ideas. Let's go. Let's play the queen back to e7 for the meantime. I'm assuming his idea here is rook to e1 and target this backwards pawn, which is extremely sound, right? That's what I would play if somebody played a move as dumb as f5. And he has full control of whether or not this file opens because he has knight to e5. But actually, with knight to e5 right now, I can just trade. And actually, I'm going to trade with this knight to start spicing things up on this open file. Has to take with this pawn. This pawn is pinned. And then I get to decide which file he gets to keep a rook on. Okay, he takes back. Actually, this is a free pawn. I've just realized I can just take. Nice. Give me the pawn. That's my pawn now. All right, we've taken the pawn. Now we're on our way to c4 as well, which is very promising because with this pawn pinned, there's e5 right after. And yeah, things are looking pretty up. Okay, after that capture, there's no knight to c4 because, well, is there? Should I lose a pawn to keep a dragon versus a knight? That doesn't seem like a bad idea. Let's do that. If he takes and he wants to recapture the pawn that he lost, then I keep a dragon on the board and he has only a knight. This is good psychology. Not to mention, oh, if he takes, I take, he takes, dragon to d5 is crazy. It gives check like a bishop and hits the rook, even though it moved into that square like a knight. That's a good tactic. All right, let's see how on earth he defends himself. And this is what I was talking about. I mean, we've got bloody dragons on the board. I have to open up the position and find some sort of chances. Because there's always chances with, dragons on the board. You just have to find them. I say that like I am a wise dragon player. Oh, interesting. He sacks the rook, preferring to keep the dragon on the board. I'll go ahead and take back. But looks like this kind of turns into a regular game if I just play dragon to d5 after he takes. Okay, he doesn't take. He plays knight to c5. In fact, he's offering me now the trade that I tried to offer him. He wants me to take, win a pawn, and then he has a dragon, but I only have a rook. How interesting. What about e5? Destabilize the knight altogether. e5, he takes here with check. I move out of the way. This dragon can't move anywhere funky because these two pieces are in the way. It would have to move like a bishop. And I'm more than happy to play that out. But I have to activate this dragon, give it some opportunities to play on. Let's see what he actually decides to do here. I'm down to 4 minutes. This is what I was talking about earlier, and I say it out loud, in part for the sake of narration, but also because I need to keep track of my own time usage. And saying it out loud is a good way to make it feel more real. Hey, you're down to 4 minutes. Pay attention. I'm assuming this is still the best move. King moves out of the way, knight to e6. But he doesn't play that. Queen to c3. I can't just take. Dragon to d4. Queen to e2 doesn't work. The dragon just moves back. So I'm assuming the idea here is takes and then activate the dragon on d4. If I take, though, that's just a free knight. So what's up with that? Yeah, if you take, I'm just going to take back. Oh, bishop, or rather dragon takes on c4. I just move out of the way. Queen is still under attack, knight is still under attack. How do you defend both of those at the same time? I'm not sure I'm convinced of this. Yeah, we defeated him. He resigned, and we gained, wait, only 22 rating points. Nah, I'll take it. We gained 22 points of rating, and we managed to defeat a very experienced dragon paradigm chess 3, whatever you want to call this player. We managed to tame the dragon, and I feel pretty confident that I have some know-how now on how to use these pieces. We had some pretty cool tactics, and I enjoyed this variant. If you guys did enjoy this video, please consider liking and subscribing, and I will see you guys in the next one.